Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you for watching another video. I'm really happy to see everyone. Like, I can see every one of you right now. That's pretty creepy, right? Anyway, I immediately switching my tone because the only news I have today is bad news. Yeah, why do you even watch these videos? I don't know. Why do I even make them? That's the better question. Anyway, let's get into the kind of not so good news. So the first thing I'm going to start off is not kind of the lead story because it's not like concrete. So what does that mean? Well, on the forums, if you are into the F-150 Lightning forums, there's actually a ton of people now reporting that their dealer is telling them that the books where you actually go to your dealer and you like make your official order aren't opening till January. And I touched on that very briefly in the last video because there's only one dude saying it, but now there's like more and more reports, and usually with that it kind of ends up being accurate. The only reason I kind of hesitate to like say that's concrete news is, well, you saw what happened with the October 1st, even though we had tons of dealers saying, or October 26th, we had tons of dealers saying, yeah, that's when it's opening. Then Ford kind of disintegrated that and said, we never said that. So who knows if this is concrete, but I would say just to like mentally prepare, yes, it's probably going to be January. And if it happens before that, then that's just good news. So enough on that. I've already talked about it. Nothing much to say there. However, the second part of this bad news and kind of the lead story. Now, if you follow all of like if you follow these blogs and everything like I do, unhealthy amount, you've been seeing an article that's being picked up by everyone. And it's how Electrek interviewed someone at Ford. I don't know exactly who. However, they mentioned that of the 160,000 reservations, fleet buyers are not included in that grouping. And I'll save you all the details, but basically what it means is people buying at that pro level especially, and maybe some XLT and a very few Lariats, might be prioritized to these fleet buyers who we have an unknown amount of. So it could just be marketing on Ford's part saying, hey, we actually have even more than that 160, 200,000. But it also could mean that, well, they actually do have a lot of fleet sales that they're just going to probably prioritize. And why would they prioritize that? I've worked in B2B sales for a lot of my career, and basically it's kind of obvious if you think about it. If one sale to one consumer is one and done, basically, maybe they'll buy a car again in 5 years. However, fleet buyers buy more vehicles more often. So if you prioritize those sales and you have better customer relationship with these fleet buyers, it's more revenue. So it's kind of dumb to think that they wouldn't prioritize those to some extent, which in turn is kind of bad news for people buying at these lower levels. They're going to decide what they make once they get all the reservations in. They've stated that. However, now with all these fleet buyers in, it may gobble up some of the bandwidth that they had to do these lower trim levels. And hopefully this is like not as big of a deal as everyone's making it out to be right now. But again, this article is popping up everywhere. There's so many people obsessed with this notion. So it's worth me telling you is why I'm mentioning that even. However, I don't just want to say there's bad news without presenting another side of it. So I've done some digging, and there's two other articles that kind of will counteract this, maybe a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. So the first article was actually just a couple weeks ago in an interview with Fairley, where he actually mentioned that they're hoping to double EV production in 2023. So maybe 2022, it might be really hard to get these mid to low level Ford F1 Lightnings, even if you are a pretty early reservation holder. Again, it might be challenging still. However, if they really do start to double production in 2023, that could open up doors, especially parts shortage might be ending by then or tapering down, probably not ending. So again, there's the light at the end of the tunnel is really all that is. So the second piece of, I guess, good news is about a month ago, Reuters actually published this article after interviewing an executive at Ford saying that they weren't getting a lot of fleet sales, and they were talking about the E-Transit as well as the Ford F-150 Lightning. And the article was all about they're worried that these people are not ready to go electric, and in fact they're having a quote unquote wait and see type of purchase behavior. So that article is very much worth bringing up, because if it was that big of a deal that they said that in an interview, It's not like between 30 days ago, they got a ton more fleet sales that they're going to prioritize. So hopefully, again, that means that there's not like 50,000 fleet sales that are going to be prioritized over the next year when the consumer is not. So bad news, sprinkle of good news, or hope rather, and we're done with that. Let's move on. So the next thing I want to talk about very briefly is just how hard it might be. Let's say everything goes right, how it still might be hard to get this car. I want to tell a quick story here about my Model Y purchase, which I'm in the middle of. Again, I'm still very much, I feel like I have to disclaimer, yes, I'm still very much focused on buying a Lightning. However, I am going to take delivery of my Model Y while I wait, because I have a feeling, based on everything I just said, that I probably won't get a Lightning until 2023. So I have a Tesla to hold me over. But here's some interesting news. So this Tesla I'm getting, I pre-ordered when it was actually $6,000 cheaper than it is now. So keep that in mind. Not only that, a used Tesla sells between 5,000 and 10,000 more, or Model Y specifically, more than the sticker price that it's at now. So I could essentially take the order of this car, drive it until my Lightning gets here, sell it, and make between $5,000 and $10,000, and it would just be like a cost neutral thing, basically. Pretty interesting. And why would I bring that up? I'm not bragging. I'm saying that there might be a very similar thing happening once this Lightning pops up. If they're that hard to find, it's gonna be like Tickle Me Elmo version like 2.0, because people will be fighting to get these things, and the used market's just gonna be for psychos. It'll be 10, 20,000 over asking, or MSRP. So basically all I'm saying is it's already happening with Tesla Model Ys. It's happening with a bunch of other cars too outside of the electric world. And it's probably going to happen for the Ford F-150 Lightning. So it is going to be a hot commodity. It's going to be hard to get, even all the way up till probably 2024, where there's at least more competition, because there's a lot of cool other EVs that are hoping to enter the market around the 2024. So when that happens, that could help. The parts shortage ending could help. So there's all these, again, lights at the end of the tunnel. That's the theme of this video. But as of right now, it's important to kind of keep these things in the back of your mind, I guess. Okay, two other things to cover today. So in a recent survey, again, this is really short, but it's kind of interesting. So they surveyed a little over 1,000 people. Not a great survey size, but the results were interesting. So the survey was trying to gauge interest in upcoming electric trucks. And here's the results. Well, Ford F-150 Lightning, kind of no surprise, is the winner. They won by actually 35% of the vote. 38% of the vote, excuse me. Up next, and this one racked my brain the most, was the Chevy Silverado, which we literally barely know anything about. They're saying that actually has 27% of the vote. That's crazy. Up next, surprisingly not number one in my opinion, is the Tesla Cybertruck, which had 20% of the vote. Second to last place was the GMC Hummer with 11% of the vote. And then dead last was Rivian with 5% of the vote. So I don't really want to talk about anything other than the last two, and because I don't really get to talk about those cars a lot. Now, the GMC is literally, I think it came out, everyone was pretty excited about it, and then they're like, yeah, it's great, except you can't have it for another 4 years or 3 years. And then it kind of faded out. But then Rivian and Tesla and, Ford F-150 Lightning, all these started popping up, and everyone got more excited about these, and then no one really cares about the GMC anymore. Not only that, it's so expensive. So I think that those two reasons are why it probably only had 11% of the vote. The reason that the Silverado was second place, it has to be just Chevy fans who are like, well, whatever Chevy comes out with, it's going to be better, blah, blah, blah. And then Rivian just getting the tail end of the vote is kind of surprising, because they're the first ones to make it technically to market with the EV truck. So I don't get why that they didn't have a lot of vote. Again, it probably is cost. And, there's a lot of people who barely even trust, if I had to guess this segment, the fact that Ford and Chevy were so high on the list, they probably don't trust a lot of these upcoming EV brands. People my dad's age still don't even trust Tesla. So maybe if they don't trust Tesla or whatever, they're definitely not going to trust Rivian, the new entry. So I don't know. All these are just speculations. I just thought the survey was kind of interesting. And it also makes for a good segue into the last story here. So If you recall, Ford actually had a $500 million investment in Rivian. There was a plan for a joint EV as well as a Lincoln EV for their Lincoln brand. And they both threw those out the window recently. And in fact, right when they announced it, Rivian's stock dipped 17%. Crazy. So, well, especially crazy because they had such a great initial public offering. So, I mean, it shows that people actually cared that Ford was backing it a little bit. And again, Ford is remaining a stock. I think that's what, like, people are just reading headlines here and missing the fact that Ford is still backing them, and I think owns 12% of Rivian. But frankly, if I had to guess, Ford's overwhelmed with the EVs that they are already making. They have a great turnout. People are, lining up out the door trying to get these things. Rivian as well is actually doing really well with their with their release of their truck and their SUV right around the corner. They just probably have to focus on their own things right now. It actually makes sense. Like, even if they did a joint operation, they wouldn't have time or bandwidth to get this thing developed and out there at least until like 2025. So it makes sense that they're kind of just stepping back from each other, especially because they're also competing with each other in a lot of ways too. It's a very interesting dynamic when you think about it. Anyway, that's kind of all I really have to cover this week. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend with your families or, whatever you're doing, Friendsgiving. That stuff's fun. I really, again, I feel bad that more hard-hitting news hasn't happened, but I do promise that when it does happen, I will let you know right away. So please feel free to subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel and, stick around, stay a while, have something to drink. You're going to love the way I know how to end videos and everything. Okay, bye.